Hello and welcome to the morning news. My name is Dino. And here is the story. Diplomatic row brewing after Jamaica refuses to accredit same-sex spouse of American diplomat. A diplomatic row has been simmering between Washington and Kingston over Jamaica's refusal to accredit the spouse of an American diplomat. The dispute is threatening to sour diplomatic relations between the two traditional allies. Earlier this year, the United States government wrote to the Jamaican government seeking its approval for the married partner of a diplomat about to be posted to Jamaica and who is in a same-sex relationship to be given diplomatic immunity and all the privileges of a diplomat. It's believed the Jamaican government did not respond to the request in a timely manner. When the U.S. sent another diplomatic note demanding a response, the Jamaican government responded rejecting the request. A senior government source told IRI News Media TV that approval of the request would mean Jamaica recognizes same-sex marriages, which is illegal in this country. Our sources tell us the U.S. then responded by rejecting a request from the Jamaican government to extend the stay of 3 diplomats in Jamaica's embassy and consulates in the United States. The U.S. served notice that the trio must leave immediately after their 5-year diplomatic visa expires. This is in contrast to what now obtains, where extensions to diplomatic visas for Jamaican diplomats beyond the 5-year period are routine. Among those affected are Jamaica's ambassador to the U.S., Audrey Marks, and Consul General Oliver Mayer, based in Miami, who the Americans say must leave and return to Jamaica this year. It's not known what other diplomatic measures, if any, the U.S. government might take against Jamaica in light of the government's refusal to grant immunity to the spouse of one of its diplomats. PNP says a release on the same-sex diplomatic issue is fake. General Secretary of the People's National Party, PNP, Dr. Dayton Campbell has labeled as fake a document bearing the party's letterhead that is being circulated, purportedly attacking the government's position in the diplomatic row seemingly festering between Washington, D.C. and Kingston over Jamaica's reported refusal to accredit the spouse of an American diplomat. It's fake. We will be sending out a release regarding our position soon, Dr. Campbell told IRI News Media TV in an interview on Tuesday. The letter is claiming that the party is concerned about the threat to gay rights and that the party embraces inclusiveness. Radio Jamaica reported yesterday of a mushrooming dispute souring diplomatic relations between the two traditional allies. Reports are that earlier this year, the United States government wrote to the Jamaican government seeking its approval for the married partner of a diplomat about to be posted to Jamaica and who is in a same-sex relationship to be given diplomatic immunity and all the privileges of a diplomat. It's reported that the Jamaican government did not respond to the request in a timely manner. Political insiders are not sure what diplomatic measures, if any, the U.S. government might take against Jamaica in light of the government's reported refusal to grant immunity to the spouse of one of its diplomats. When the U.S. sent another diplomatic note demanding a response, the Jamaican government reportedly responded, rejecting the request. There is a concern in some quarters that approval of the request would mean Jamaica recognizes same-sex marriages, which is illegal in this country. Local media reported that the U.S. then responded by rejecting a request from the Jamaican government to extend the stay of 3 diplomats in Jamaica's embassy and consulates in the United States. Among those to be impacted are Jamaica's ambassador to the U.S., Audrey Marks, and Consul General Oliver Mayer, based in Miami, who are expected to return to Jamaica this year. A fatal shooting by police leads to a protest in Negril yesterday. Residents in Negril, Westmoreland are today protesting the fatal shooting of 2 men by the police in the Red Ground area on Monday. They have been identified as Richard Mosley and Shane Grandison. Residents in the community are accusing the police of killing the men in cold blood, and that both victims are not troublemakers. It is reported that the police received information that a man sporting dreadlocks was seen brandishing a gun in the resort town and launched an investigation. It is further reported that a team of cops intercepted a motor vehicle fitting the description in which the man was traveling in the Red Ground area and blocked its path. It is alleged that an armed man alighted from the vehicle and a shootout between himself and the police commenced. He escaped into nearby bushes. It was later discovered that the driver and the passenger in the front seat were shot. They were rushed to hospital, where they were pronounced dead upon arrival. The Independent Commission of Investigations is probing into the matter. Haitians to be deported after being charged and fined for illegal entry. 29 Haitians who recently arrived in Jamaica are to be deported to their homeland after being charged with illegal entry and placed before the court. The Haitians appeared before the Portland Parish Court on Tuesday. The 24 men and 5 women were fined $7,000 or 3 days of hard labor each. The police say arrangements are being made by the Passport, Immigration, and Citizenship Agency to have them returned to Haiti. The Haitians were among a group of 37 people who arrived at Boston Beach in Portland on July 10 at about 1:40 p.m. It is believed that they embarked on their journey from Jérémie, Haiti, approximately 14 days earlier. Residents reportedly spotted a vessel carrying the group near the beach and helped them ashore. Man charged over Spanish Town Road bar gun attack on a woman. Lawmen assigned to the Hunts Bay Criminal Investigation Branch, CIB, have charged a man in connection with the shooting of a woman in the head at a bar located on Spanish Town Road. Havani McLeish, 26, otherwise known as Babyface, of Spanish Town Road, has been charged with wounding with intent, possession of a prohibited weapon, unauthorized possession of ammunition, and using a prohibited weapon to commit a felony. Reports from the Hunts Bay CIB are that at about 4 p.m. on Sunday, July 2, the accused man rode up to the business establishment and shot the woman in the head. He then escaped on the awaiting motorcycle. The woman was rushed to hospital, where she remains in serious but stable condition. The police say the accused man was charged based on an eyewitness statement and a question-and-answer session in the presence of his lawyer on July 13. His court date is being finalized. Body of a police recruit recovered by divers. St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. The body of police recruit Ray-Andre Pike was on Tuesday recovered after he was presumed to have drowned at Tranquility Bay in St. Elizabeth a day earlier. Pike's body was said to have been found by divers. It is understood that Pike was attempting to assist a fellow recruit, when he also encountered difficulties while swimming at the beach. Despite being described as a strong swimmer, he was said to have been overcome by a current. The 19-year-old was part of a batch of 150 who started their training journey with the Jamaica Constabulary Force in March 2023. BOJ moves to calm jitters amid NCBFG management changes. The Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, is seeking to assure that member companies of the NCB Financial Group, NCBFG, are profitable, strong, and safe amid the sudden management changes at the financial institution. In a market filing with the Jamaica Stock Exchange Tuesday morning, NCB announced that President and Group Chief Executive Officer of the NCB Financial Group Patrick Hilton and his deputy Dennis Cohen have proceeded on 3 weeks vacation, effective today. For the immediate future, Michael Lee Chin, chairman of NCBFG, will carry some executive responsibilities. In a media release Tuesday afternoon, BOJ acknowledged the changes to the bank's senior management and noted that corporate developments of this nature can give rise to concern among members of the public in Jamaica and overseas. Bank of Jamaica uses this opportunity to give the assurance that the member companies of the NCB Financial Group are profitable, strong, safe, and sound and possess sufficient capital and liquidity, which are above regulatory requirements, it said. The BOJ pointed to recent statements by its Financial Policy Committee that the financial system in Jamaica remains adequately capitalized and liquid. Bank of Jamaica underscores its commitment to continuous robust supervision of all deposit-taking institutions and their holding companies with a focus on risk-based assessments, including ensuring that satisfactory corporate governance arrangements are in place at all licensees, the BOJ added. No mercy for child rapists. Recently appointed Government Senator Abka Fitz-Henley is calling for an amendment to the Sexual Offences Act to prescribe a mandatory life sentence for people found guilty of raping a child, regardless of whether they plead guilty to the offense. This isn't an emotive call. The view has been expressed by an eminent political practitioner in Jamaica that the law is a tool of social engineering. That being the case, as stewards of this tool of societal maneuver, the message we must send to child rapists is, enough is enough. Zero tolerance, Fitz-Henley told the Jamaica Observer. He contrasted a case in Guyana last week and recent events in Jamaica as he called for stronger penalties for those who violate the trust of children. I note that recently in Guyana, a man, Wesley Brazil, who raped a 15-year-old child, was sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. He made headlines because he attempted to use a razor blade to take his life in the courtroom. Contrast that to recent events in Jamaica where Davian Bryan, who abducted and raped 2 children, ages 9 and 13, was sentenced to 23 years imprisonment with the possibility of parole after the expiration of 16 years, noted Fitzhenley. He further noted that the law currently provides for a maximum potential punishment of a life sentence in Jamaica for people convicted of rape and prescribes a mandatory minimum penalty of 15 years behind bars, but leaves it up to the discretion of a judge whether to go beyond that in adjudicating the extent of the sanction. Section 61A of the Sexual Offences Act, 2009, says, a person who commits the offense of rape is liable upon conviction in a circuit court to imprisonment for life or such other sentence as the court considers appropriate, which is not being less than 15 years. Fitzhenley added, I do appreciate the nuance that the facts of cases may differ, however, I reckon that as far as those who rape children are concerned, it's time to not only adjust sentencing guidelines but to also impose mandatory life sentences for these kinds of heinous crimes against a grouping that may be classified as among society's most vulnerable. He further noted that the law currently provides for a maximum potential punishment of a life sentence in Jamaica for people convicted of rape and prescribes a mandatory minimum penalty of 15 years behind bars, but leaves it up to the discretion of a judge whether to go beyond that in adjudicating the extent of the sanction. Section 61A of the Sexual Offences Act, 2009, says, a person who commits the offense of rape is liable upon conviction in a circuit court to imprisonment for life or such other sentence as the court considers appropriate, which is not being less than 15 years. Fitzhenley added, I do appreciate the nuance that the facts of cases may differ, however, I reckon that as far as those who rape children are concerned, it's time to not only adjust sentencing guidelines but to also impose mandatory life sentences for these kinds of heinous crimes against a grouping that may be classified as among society's most vulnerable. I think this should be done regardless of whether there is a guilty plea. In my view, it's appropriate from a policy and legislative standpoint to say, look here, we're not into this potential 15 years behind bars only. If you rape a child, you will spend the rest of your life in custody. The government senator argued that the future of Jamaican society is at stake, in terms of the message sent about how serious crimes against children are treated. Thankfully, some of us were fortunate to escape sexual abuse in our formative years, but many children have not been so fortunate. The fact is these crimes should not be countenanced. Some of our criminals in Jamaica who prey on children should apprehend the shock of facing a lifetime behind bars, a similar prospect which perhaps led to the brigand in Guyana attempting to take his own life. I'm open to hearing other views, however, the substance of the call is something from which I'm unlikely to resile, Fitzhenley reiterated. He was quick to point out that he was not criticizing the current discretionary sentences handed down by judges in cases in which children are raped, as he accepts that they have been acting within the constraints of the law and the current sentencing guidelines. I'm not here seeking to rake our jurists over the coals in relation to recent sentences handed down. Of course, we wish that harsher penalties would be meted out to those who violate the trust and bodily autonomy of our children in a most dastardly way, because the current law does give that option, but the fact is, our judges, even in the Davian Bryan case, they have acted within the constraints of the law. What I am saying is, it is perhaps time for us, from a policy and lawmaking perspective, to say, look, the message we want to send in terms of these kinds of crimes is that anyone who brings themselves to commit the atrocity of raping a child must understand that they have sacrificed their freedom for the rest of their days. I strongly believe we should legislate that, said Fitzhenley. He underscored that there are committees of Parliament now assessing the various pieces of legislation which concern sanctions for crimes, including rape and murder, and added that following the review process he hopes the penalties will be increased. Should the outcome not be in favor of vastly stronger sanctions in respect of those convicted of raping or sexually abusing children, I intend to contemplate a private member's motion which calls for mandatory life imprisonment for the offenses, said Fitzhenley.